Alright, it's still Center Point AM for 5. Many thanks for staying with us on the program. On this first session of the program, we will be talking about the new administration and diasporan partnership, just like we had earlier promoted. And with me this morning is the National President of Ibom State Association of Nigeria, AKISAN USA, Obong, Itoro, Akpan-Iquot. So good to have you on Center Point AM for 5.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you whenever you come home. So this is another opportunity for you to, talk to us about the diaspora connection and all of that. Let's begin from the elections. I want to clarify this. I observed that lots of diasporans were really partook in the campaigns, the electioneering process and all of that. What informed these decisions, from your interactions with people in the diaspora? Why did this come to play in this, dispensation?
Yes, so all along, but in this particular dispensation in particular, diaspora has always been involved, both as Akwa Ibomites and as Nigerians. As I always like to say, every year as Nigerians we send home at least $30 billion in money. And that's just official because there are people who give money in pocket to bring to their people. So I always like to say that that money is our vote. But having said that, over the time, especially because of social media, more of us have gotten more and more involved. And I expect that number to increase over time, because as you all know, we have a lot of issues that occur here in the country that we'd like to help out with. So we feel that by getting involved in the electoral process, we're able to hopefully help influence the election of good leaders, since we don't have a vote ourselves, and then over time Akwa Ibom State gets better.
Because I saw more than ever,
Yes, compared to 4 years ago, definitely that number has increased.
That's right. Do you think the people that were around for the campaigns to vote, are they satisfied with the outcome? Are they satisfied with the election process? Okay,
so overall I would say yes. As you know, just as there are many Akwa Ibomites both here and in the United States, that they also represent different ideologies and therefore different parties. But for the most part, with respect to this particular election, they've been satisfied with the results.
Okay. So a new administration has birthed at the national and state level and across the board. Let's talk about the state. First of all, we have a new governor. We have Governor Umo Eno. All right. And we'll be taking a look at his Arise agenda, talk a bit about some of the key points he mentioned in his inaugural speech. But first of all, let's take a look at the Arise agenda. What's your impression of that on the Akwa Ibom polity?
Yes. So I think Arise stands for, at least the headers, agriculture, rural development, infrastructure, security, and economic impact.
Education
and economic impact. In particular, speaking for myself, I'm pretty sure all Akwa Ibomites, I'm very particular about the rural development. I think it's about time that things need to get decentralized from the center, which is really into the rural areas. After all, they're part of the state. Another area people are interested in is education. A lot of schools are not really well maintained, and I'm hoping that this is something that the current administration will be looking at. Security. There are a lot of people who don't want to come home because either they've been a victim of, or maybe people they know have been victims of insecurity. So that limits them from coming. Sometimes they stay in Lagos or Abuja out of fear of coming to Akwa Ibom State. So I think in particular, if we can have those three items taken care of course everything, but those particular three, that will encourage them to come back home in more numbers.
Okay. You enjoyed, let me know, I'll get to ask the question if you actually enjoyed a good relationship with the outgone administration. But let's get to the new one. What kind of relationship are you looking forward to?
Okay, so over time, going back to 1999, we've always had a good relationship between AKISAN and the Akwa Ibom State governments. And in particular, with the last 8 years with Mr. Emmanuel, he has been a great supporter of our association. As I'm sure you're aware, last month, actually this month, they came to Atlanta to partner with that chapter on the Akwa Ibom House project. So on a personal level, Mr. Udom has always been very gracious. Anytime I ask for something, he's always giving. So with respect to the new administration, I've also spoken to the new governor, Pastor Umo Eno, and I expect to have that same continuous working relationship with this administration.
Okay. What about AKISAN? What expectations does AKISAN as a body have?
So with respect to AKISAN, again, relative to the Arise agenda, because I've spoken to a lot of members randomly, they are really looking at, in particular, those three areas.
Okay. And
then based on his track record, especially as a businessman, they are confident that he will be able to implement this. I met Pastor Umo Eno at the last convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. And what struck me about him personally was a very humble person. And one thing I really like about people is that humility. So that struck out for me. So that was what carried over into the campaign process. And then after the election, he came to Atlanta. I also had an opportunity to talk to him one-on-one, and that confirmed, what my gut instincts had told me about him. So.
Okay. And you expect much from him?
Oh yes, definitely. To whom much is given, much is expected. Now that he's the governor, he needs to implement. As I like to say, the elections are over, governance has begun. So I do expect him to not only fulfill what he promised he would do, but go above and beyond.
Okay. Now talking about fulfillment of promises, let's take a look at the national level. One day, just while the new president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was giving his inaugural speech, he mentioned something that sort of caused chaos here in the country, talking about the fuel subsidy removal. For you, what does that stand for? What have you observed since you've been in the country, you've been in the state to witness it?
So before I answer that question, I forgot something, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I have watched various inaugural addresses with respect to our governors going back to 1999, and I was really impressed with the fact that the current governor, Pastor Umo Eno, mentioned he thanked the diaspora for their support. That said a lot to me and a lot of people that I talked to, so I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
With respect to the national, yes, that night I know that he had lifted the fuel subsidy, and in my opinion, long term it is a good thing. Unfortunately, what we have seen is that many fuel stations have shut down. Probably the union will go on strike, and that's going to affect. So someone, for example, told me where they used to pay 500 naira for a drop is up to like 2,000 because it's the fuel. So yes, when things of that economic nature happen, I call it shock and awe. Initially, there's going to be that shock, but long term, it should benefit us because we can't keep on paying these subsidies and borrowing money to pay those subsidies. I think right now we have about 32 trillion naira or so as a country. I can't remember, but either way, trillion is a lot of money. We need to focus on paying down that debt so that the value of our currency can get stronger over time. And subsidy removal is one way of doing that. Okay.
Now to AKISAN as a group, because we usually say government is about the people, for the people, by the people. Earlier on, you mentioned the contributions of Nigerians in diaspora with a tune of over 13 billion naira to the GDP of the country. Now, so far, what would you say have been the contributions of AKISAN to the GDP of Akwa Ibom State?
Yes. So I'll go back a few years, but then concentrate on the 3 years I've been in office.
Okay.
Over time, we've contributed to the GDP through providing us scholarships. That way, people are able to go to school, graduate, get jobs, contribute taxes and all that to the society. We've also carried out medical missions. So people who are, for example, sick, not able to go to work, for example, have been able to be cured of their diseases, they get back to work. That filters down as well. In the last 3 years of my administration, I've done those two, but I've also done vocational training in IT, cosmetology, and agribusiness. We've trained getting close to about 100 people since 2020. A few people have gone on to work either for themselves. They've also, I think about 2 people recently have had jobs in the UK in our IT training. Okay. The lady we're working with in cosmetology partnered with an Akwa Ibomite in Atlanta to send her natural soaps for sale in the United States. As a matter of fact, when the governor was there, well, former governor and the current governor were there in Atlanta, he brought about 300 bars of those soaps to pass out to people there. But that lady is producing 10,000 bars of soap every month and sending to the United States for sale. Okay. And that fulfills a vision of mine of not just giving people fish, but teaching them how to fish. By doing that, she had 2 workers before, she's increased to 8. She had to move from a former place to a bigger place. That means more taxes for the state, of course promotion for the state as well. and now she's able to earn hard currency right here in Akwa Ibom State.
Okay. You also mentioned scholarship. You've been giving scholarship to Akwa Ibom students over the years. Last year you did one, I remember AKBC.
Right.
Okay, those are clips from that event that happened last year. And this year you've promoted the 2023 scholarship.
Yes.
Okay, talk to us about that.
Yeah. So the one we did last May was the first in my administration.
Okay.
The idea was to give 2 students each per local government area. Of course, this was during the COVID era. We realized a few mistakes that we made, and then we implemented those changes into the current one. So the current one, incidentally, ends today, the deadline for application.
Okay, May 31st.
Yes, we tweaked that a little bit. So we're still giving 2 people per local government area, but we're going to cover more people by giving scholarships ranging from 50,000 naira to 100,000 naira, depending on your GPA.
Okay.
So we're hoping by doing that, we're able to cover more people. Because what happened was last year, because of what I would call the stricter guidelines, some local governments did not even qualify because of that. But by bringing that GPA requirement down, offering the tiered money system, we're hoping to be able to cover now more people.
Okay. So far, what was the application?
Yes.
Have you received much?
Yes. So last year we received about 65 applications. So far I counted 200. So you can see that increase because of the requirements having changed based on what we learned last year.
Okay. All right. What about you mentioned the medical missions. Talk to us about that.
Yes. So in the past we typically did it in the major cities per senatorial district. So Uyo, AKBC-TV. In my administration, I decided to change things because even though there might be local government areas in the hinterlands, we feel that each and every one of them need to be covered. So the 3 local governments we went to last year have never been visited before. Itoro, Engr, and Uruko. We wanted to do something in the Akpan-Iquot senatorial district, but unfortunately we didn't get a response on time. Okay. But my overall point is that we've never been to those 3 local government areas, and the plan is moving forward. We're going to go to 3 local government areas, different ones, every year until we cover every one of them, and then start all over again. Okay. And that has also led to an increase because there are people who could not afford, for example, coming from in the local government to, let's say, Ikot. So by reaching out to them directly, we're able to serve more people.
Okay. Any plans for this year?
This year we're looking at October as well.
Okay.
So it'll be after our convention in August. But we haven't actually gotten down to planning, but that's what we're going to do.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the Atlanta House.
Yes.
The Atlanta House made so much waves. Thankfully, you are here and you tell us how it is. First of all, talk to us about that house.
Yes.
What it stands for.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy you bring up that question because, yes, I've read the headlines. There's a lot of misconceptions about it, but as a history, Atlanta chapter is one of 30 chapters in the United States. Back in 2005, they decided to buy this property because we were tired of going to hotels and giving our money to other people. Besides, at those hotels, you could not serve our food, and then you had to leave like at 2 in the morning. So they got together, started raising money for that. 2005, they bought the property. There was already a house on it. There was a literal house. They broke down the walls to make it a hall.
Okay.
Every
the
year.
Atlanta chapter.
Atlanta chapter, yes.
Okay.
Then we had solicited for investors they could not find. They had talked to the Victor Atta administration, the Akwa administration, nothing was forthcoming. Meanwhile, they were always raising money as a chapter to help pay for the mortgage of that house. Fortunately, if people were renting the house, it was able to pay for itself sometimes, but during the COVID era, for 2 years, it wasn't rented. Okay. So under the Udom administration, the same proposal was presented to them, and fortunately, they keyed into it to partner because, among other things, it's about 10 minutes away from the busiest airport in the world. The conference center, a lot of conferences take place in that axis, so it makes sense for us to have a house in that area. So it's going to house a ballroom, a meeting space, and we want to have an office for the governor so that if he's in the United States to conduct business, he can have it in that house. Also, we're made to understand that Ibom Air eventually is going to be flying from the United States to Uyo, so we also have an office dedicated for them there. Now, with respect to misconceptions, the headlines as I read them was that the government was going to contribute $10 million to that project. And the header is actually not right. If you read the article, you see the truth, that not many people have that time or even want to read that. So the government only has a 23% stake in that property, which is $2.3 million. The house itself costs $10 million. The chapter is going to finance the rest. So I just wanted to clear that, because everyone thinks that the governor actually came with $10 million and gave it to that chapter. And I've heard people saying they want to report to the EFCC and all that, but yeah, the chapter has not even seen the money yet. I know it's going to come, but I'm saying it's only 23%, not the whole thing.
Okay. Okay. So, what benefit? You've talked about Akwa Ibom State will have some offices here and there. Hopefully, the Ibom Air. For the people over there, what benefit is it for them?
Yeah, like I mentioned, before this house was acquired, at least speaking for Atlanta, because we still have that issue nationally. Whenever we had events, we had to go to hotels. My big thing is I always want to support Akwa Ibom businesses. So by taking this thing to other communities, we're actually enriching that community. So that's one. Number two, it doesn't make sense to have an Akwa Ibom event but we're eating European food. We need to eat our food. For the sake of our children in particular who are over there, we could not do that. Or if you're able to, the conditions are so strict, and I can't blame them because they don't want lawsuits if somebody gets sick. And then also, as you know, our parties tend to last all night. But over there, for the most part, 2 a.m. you have to leave. Unfortunately, we still...
As if you're in a hotel?
If you're in a hotel, yeah.
Okay.
And then a lot of us, unfortunately, still suffer from Nigerian time. So if we say something starts at 7, it usually starts at 9. And then we have very limited time to do what we need to do, and then we're rushed out of the building. So by having this property of our own, in fact, I think it's the only chapter that has a property of this nature, I would say, anywhere outside of Akwa Ibom State. We're able to, because there's a house there already, right? So we're able to host our own things there. We can serve our own food without any fear or favor. We can leave whenever we want. And also, again, the money, let's take the conventions. On average, we spend about $50,000 with the hotels for conventions.
Okay.
If the convention were held in that house, you wouldn't spend that much money. And even if we did, it goes directly into the community. That's more money we can use to help people here in Akwa Ibom State. Okay.
Does the edifice, are there suites included? Will there be suites included at the end of the day?
So that's not because of city requirements.
Okay.
That's not going to be the goal, because it has above a certain number that changes the schematics of the building. Okay. But there will be a few. For example, for changing rooms, people want to change their clothes. Maybe if you have an event that you don't want to go home, there'll be a room or two for people to be able to spend the night. But that's not the emphasis. It's to take advantage of the fact that Atlanta is a very diverse and convention-rich city. And by being very close to the airport, instead of people having to drive out into town, they just drive 10 minutes from the airport to have their events there.
Okay. So, of course, there will be a hall, conference hall.
Conference hall, and then smaller meeting rooms. If you don't have meetings of, let's say, 50 people or less, you don't have to get the big ballroom, among other things.
Okay. All right. And you belong to the Atlanta chapter.
Yes, I do.
You're based in Atlanta.
That's right.
Okay. How will the entire AKISAN body from all the states benefit from this, or is just an Atlanta thing?
So the house is in Atlanta, but we call it an Akwa Ibom house. Okay. It's for all Akwa Ibomites. So even though I'm not part of that planning process, but what I would like to see is, let's say you're from another state, you want to host something, we should be able to provide discounts to Akwa Ibom indigents. After all, it's our house. Okay. So if you're paying, I'm just saying $100 over here, maybe you pay $75 here. So that would be one benefit. Also, the money that is raised in that building, we can now also help people in the local communities there. And also, that's more money because we're not spending money outside. That money will be saved and then used to help people over here.
Okay. Okay. All right. You also host conventions each year. You mentioned it earlier on. This year, I believe plans are underway. I keep seeing posts here and there.
Yeah, so this year, so we have conventions every year. And the main point of those conventions is to raise money to be able to do things back in Akwa Ibom State. This year is no exception. We have those conventions every August. This year's will be in San Diego, California. It's the first time we're going to California since 2002. It's going to be from August 10th to August 13th. And this year, every year we have a theme. This year's theme is the STEAM, so that's science, technology, engineering. We added arts and math, so that's why it's STEAM instead of STEM.
STEM, okay.
Okay. So we want to be able to take advantage of technologies with respect to our younger generation, because whether you like it or not, especially with AI,
that's right,
the world is moving in that direction. We're going to have, for the first time ever, a tech summit. Where we have, I didn't even know this, but we have a lot of acquirements in the tech industry, like Facebook, Google in the US. So they're going to come and talk to us while we're there.
Okay.
We also have business summits where we try to bring businesses from the US to present ideas to those of us in Nigeria and vice versa to hopefully come and implement here. We're also going to have a Mr. and Miss AKISAN pageant. Of course, the main event is that Saturday. We have football competitions, table tennis competitions. Sundays we have a church service, and that's pretty much it. But it's a 4-day weekend from Thursday to Sunday, and we're asking people actually to arrive early because California, being bright and sunny all year round, is a vacation spot. So we're asking that families bring their children to come on vacation prior to or even after the convention itself.
Okay. One other person was supposed to join you.
That's right.
Here, talking about the National Secretary of AKISAN. He is also the president of Akwa Association USA Incorporated. Yeah, I would have loved for him, because we've promoted quite a lot of their events, which I understand are coming up. The scholarship, some medical outreach, medical donations. Yeah, can you, on behalf of him, talk about these?
Yes. So he's my national secretary, like you said, and national president of Akwa Association. His name is Sir Michael Asukwa. And tomorrow, which I believe is June 1st, they are going to provide scholarships. I can't remember the number of students, but 100,000 naira each. They're also going to donate double-seater benches to 500 of those to various schools in the Akwa clan. And then they're also going to donate a $200,000 X-ray machine to St. Luke's Hospital in Akwa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's very big, and I'm proud of it, because AKISAN cannot do everything by itself. So we encourage what I call the other subgroups who have more a direct relationship with their people to do the same. I think in our language we say right? So if each of these people do things collectively over time, things will get better.
Okay. All right. As we begin to wind down our conversation, back to the Umo Eno administration, for people who didn't hear you talk about your expectations, and in case you've just joined us, I'm here with the national president of Ibom State Association of Nigeria, AKISAN USA, Mr. now Obong. Because I got that message that you will be what do they say?
So it's
officially coronated?
No, it's a reception.
Okay, so the reception.
Coronation was last December.
Okay.
Since I wasn't in I couldn't stay long enough, so apparently I had to have a reception. So now they said I had to do it, and since they knew I was coming this month, I've been doing it on Saturday.
Okay, so the Obong Obong Itoro Akpan-Iquot. Talk to us about your expectations.
So on a personal level, I know it resonates with everybody because I've spoken to them. I'll go back 2 years, but I'll come back to your question. So 2021 was my first national convention in Atlanta, and I found three Akwa-Ibomites, business owners who have been in Atlanta for like 20-30 years. I never knew they existed, but because of that publicity, I was able to get in touch with them. And they had wanted to, I did have them speak with the SSG at the time with respect to how they could bring their businesses to a Akwa-Ibom state. You heard me mention that we give out $30 billion every year. You know, it's like we keep on giving money. But if these people, in particular Akwa-Ibomites, because I'm very big on Akwa-Ibom, supporting Akwa-Ibom, are able to establish their businesses. One manufactures laptops, cell phones, and the tablets. One actually is a CEO of a non-profit organization that supplies books free of charge to various schools. Then the other one I mentioned was soap making. He sells to like equivalent of like ShopRite, which are huge stores. These are Ibom products being sold there.
Okay.
But this lady is still pretty much small scale over here. So if there's a way to empower such people to expand, right, then not only will it help those people individually, but then again they get to hire more people. That's more tax revenue for the state. Also, it has a ripple effect because they're going to spend that money on like rent, eating, school fees, among other things. So my personal expectation, and that is why I was so happy that in his speech he thanked the diaspora. It's not just to have us send money, but to actually establish things here. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I don't think any Akwa Ibomite from the diaspora, maybe except one, which I believe is the shipyard guy in Akpan-Iquot, has any large-scale business. I'm not talking small stuff, but large-scale in Akwa Ibom State, and I would like to see that.
Okay, all right. And then, you know, what would be your word of advice for all diasporans and even people here in Akwa Ibom in terms of how they can support the new administration to succeed?
So what I would advise them to do is to take advantage of all channels of communication. One thing I discovered as, I guess on a personal level when I became president, is a lot of people did not even hear about AKISAN because we did not do a good job publicizing. Fortunately, there's a lot of social media out there. One thing I would like to see with respect to this administration, and I've talked to them already, going back to the former administration, is to rekindle that office of the Diaspora Affairs. Because right now, yes, we work with the SSG, but it would be nice to have someone dedicated 100% to that effort. Okay. So, for now, take advantage of the official channels to communicate with the government, but once we have that office, I think that will be a much better, more effective way. So don't lose faith. Right? I guess that's the bottom line. Don't expect, I guess, a Noah's Ark to be built or a room to be built in a day. It's going to be an incremental process. Be patient. If there are things you don't like, of course, feel free to sound it out. Do so respectfully, because the way you say things matters. There's a way you talk to somebody and they won't move an inch. You talk to someone a different way and they do everything for you. So if you want to criticize, that's fine, but be respectful about it. Pray for Akwa Ibom State that, again, we get better over time. Okay.
All right. I've been speaking with the National President, Akwa Ibom State Association of Nigeria, AKISAN, Mr. Itoro Akpan-Iquot, who is an engineer. Okay, he's an engineer in
software
ICT. Okay, software engineering. Okay, and he has been talking to us about how they've enjoyed partnerships so far with the past administrations, and then their expectations from the new administration. And of course, he has given us hints here and there about some upcoming events with scholarships. Today is May 31st. There's still time. If you are an undergraduate or you know somebody who is an undergraduate and you think that person should be a beneficiary of that awards, all you need to do is go check out their website. Just Google AKISAN Scholarship 2023 and you'll be on. You find a link so you can apply. Today is the last date. So many people have benefited from that awards in times past, years past. So why not be also part of the beneficiaries this year? Alright, so go take a look at that website and then get your applications sent in. Alright, before we began this conversation, the president kept telling me he needs to do something. He needs to do something before we wind down. And he has spoken with my producer. I don't know what it's all about. Let's see. That he needs to show Akwa Ibom State Akwa Ibom people something. And my producer gave me the nod. So I know I'm in safe hands. All right.
Yes, so before I go into that, I forgot to mention, for those who will be watching this in the United States, we're also offering 10 scholarships to students in the U.S. Okay. Last year we did 3. We've increased it to 10. So that's a good thing. So if you're watching, again, today is the deadline, go and apply. Now, to the question you just asked.
That's right. I've been curious.
Yes. So I first met your Director General, Pastor Umo 2 years ago. Okay. And he hooked me up with you, this studio. And you have been very helpful. In particular, I called you like today and said we need help for something tomorrow. And you're right there. Sometimes I feel guilty asking because when you ask me, but you're always
we're always here to save, like I keep saying.
And not only AKISAN, but as well as a national body, but I think you did for Philadelphia chapter, a few other chapters, Affordable Association, among others. So you've really helped us to send out the word, because not only do we have the live show, you package the video for us and then we send it out through social media. And so I talked about publicity earlier. Because of you and other outlets, we've been able to send out the word, so much so that when I went to my village last year, they didn't even know I was the national president, but they had heard about AKISAN, right? So if you don't mind, I'd like to give you this plaque, even though it has your name on it. It's actually dedicated to all the staff of Akwa Ibom Broadcasting Corporation Television. Just to thank you. They say money or gold I don't have, but we hope that this will come out. So it says Akwa Ibom State Association of Nigeria USA Inc., AKISAN USA, Appreciation Award presented to Mercy Ekere in recognition of your unwavering dedication to the success of our information dissemination efforts in Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Presented June. Well, I thought I was going to have this interview in June. Okay. So we would have said today, but
tomorrow is June.
Tomorrow is June 1st tomorrow, so it still keys in. So again, I don't know if I can get up to give it to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And again, it's dedicated to all the staff of AKBC as well.
Thank you so much. Wow. I never expected this. I kept thinking maybe it had to do with government. I don't know. Thank you so much, AKISAN. Thank you so much to the president. I feel humbled, and I'll always be here to serve. AKBC will always be here to serve.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I forgot to mention this, but right after this show, I did ask you, we're going to North and in your local government area to visit with the victims of the recent windstorm. And I asked you, I think I asked you this morning if you're going to be able to help, and you said yes.
Right.
So that further goes to show the dedication you have for it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, AKISAN. Thank you to the president. Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. Okay, that's my award. Thank you so much to AKISAN. Thank you so much. We'll keep serving. We'll always be here to serve. I keep saying, whenever any of you calls, I'll say we are always available. We're always available to serve, not just AKISAN, but all our viewers, all our esteemed viewers. We're always here to serve. Call us anytime of the day, and we're up and going to ensure that we get to you publicized. By the way, you can watch AKBC anywhere in Akwa Ibom State with our new transmitter running. You can watch us on terrestrial television anywhere in the state. Alright, thank you so much for having been part of the program. We still have more for you on Center Point AM 45. Do stay tuned.